Okay, Jamie, you told us that you got an interest in bloodstock when you were sort of at Coolmore and places, and you sort of loved the sales already. So you've decided that riding's not for you, and you've gone straight back into the bloodstock industry. So can you tell us a little bit about how that progressed and who gave you your start and that sort of thing?
Sure. I mean, look, it's a difficult game to get into as a young man starting out if you haven't got a direct link into it. And so I'd taken a bit of a slap on Ramwick in Sydney. I came off one and broke a couple bones, and I just thought that whilst I'm stuck in the office, I'll send out a load of emails, a load of CVs to as many Bloodstock agents as I knew, and just said, look, I'll work for you for free. I can ride out in the mornings, and that'll be grand, and that'll keep the money ticking over. But I just want to learn. And I think I sent out 16 emails, and I got 15 no's. There's only so much help you need at the sales, and most people are already sorted with assistants and whatnot. And I got one yes from James Delahooke, of all people. What an amazing Bloodstock agent, the man who started Judgment, arguably. And he sent me a flight number to America. He said, if you're on this plane, you can look at some horses for me, and you can help me out. And that was really the first person to give me a chance. I mean, I'd done a bit in Australia with the likes of Johnny McKeever and whatnot, but after that, I think James and I did every sale for about 2.5 years together. And what an amazing man to learn from. But it takes someone like that to give you your first opportunity, someone to go out of their way, and I'm incredibly grateful for it.
And how quickly did you have to pack your bag?
I had from Australia, so I didn't have much money either. So I went via Sri Lanka, Hong Kong, Moscow, London, Keeneland. Or there was somewhere in between, probably Charlotte. So it was the bag cost more than I did to get there.
So you were basically then you offered your services and you were learning on the job. Do you think that's the only way to do it?
Yeah. I mean, looking at thousands upon thousands of horses every year is the only way you start to understand the way around it. That you can do other things like sitting in the ring and trying to estimate prices and whatnot, but really being out there and just looking at horses is the only way. Ask as many questions as possible, and having someone that like James who's kind enough to spend their time and whilst they're doing their job, explain a few things to you, because it's all well and good following someone around, but if they don't answer your questions or tell you what they're looking for, you don't learn. But to learn from someone like that was wonderful, and like I said, I was eternally grateful to him. He looks at a horse in a very specific manner, and if you look at all the Jobmont horses, they all look like that because he bought all their parents.
So what was it originally that attracted you to the blood? Was it the fascination of pedigrees? Was it the excitement of going to the auctions? Was it just the not knowing how things are going to turn out? What was it that, because you're obviously passionate about it, what was it that got you?
Sure, I mean, there's something special about a sales day at Tattersalls. As you can see, we're here in my house and we're about 100 metres away from the sales ring. It's the place is electric, so I really enjoy that. Leicester had a bit of breeding, so a few mares that he was breeding from, and so I'd had a little bit of insight into it from that. But my real insight would have come when I started working for Ted Vout and just thought, this is a way I can be involved in the industry, and I can still do a bit of riding, but without being a jockey. And I can sort of, it's interesting for Leicester as well in the same way. He really enjoys watching the sales. He watches everything from his home and looks through all the lists. It's, you can ask for his advice as well, which is wonderful.
Do you get the odd phone call giving you, sort of pointing in the right direction?
What the hell were you doing there? What were you bidding on that for?
So what was the most valuable piece of advice that you were ever given when you were gleaning all this information and learning your trade?
It was the first day I ever looked at horses for James Delahooke in America. Probably the 15th horse we looked at. I'll never forget it. Big rangy filly got bought out, book one Keeneland, and James said to me, "Right, Jamie, what's wrong with this horse?" And I said, "Well, could have a little bit more depth here, maybe slightly straight through its hocks. And he said, no, there is nothing wrong with this horse. He said, stop looking for what you don't like and look for what you do like. And I've never forgotten that. If you look at 100 and it could be raining and you be in a bit of a bad mood, and you just got to remind yourself, stop looking for stop looking for problems and start looking for what you like in a horse.
Okay, so when did you start looking for yourself? When did you actually go out on your own as Jamie PIGGOTT Bloodstock?
So about 3 years ago, I set up the company. I started it up as pin hooking,
Which we'll talk about in a bit.
and I got an introduction through James to Nigel Tinkler, who he said to me, look, go and have a look at a few of the horses in training for me. And actually, interestingly, I only had one client in the world. I was only just starting out. And he's just taken all his horses away from Nigel. I didn't ask why or anything, but I thought, this isn't great. I've only got one client, and this is a bit sort of walking on the edge. Anyway, we went and I did a list for Nigel, and we bought 2 horses off there, a couple of 2-year-old colts that we then gelded. They were one from Joseph, one from Kevin Ryan. And a couple of days later, Nigel rang me up and he said, any chance you can sell the one from Kevin's to your client? And I was like, bloody hell, he's just taken all his horses away. Is this a good idea? And he went for it, and then ended up putting all his horses back with Nigel. And actually, we worked together again. That was 3 years ago, and we've done every sale ever since. So we get on really well, and look, I think he appreciates the help that I afford him, and I appreciate that. Probably that first year, I was learning from him as much as I was helping him. But he's a good man, and we get on really well.
Well, you've got off to a flyer, because if my information is right, you were the leading buyer of breeze-up horses in the Southern Hemisphere for 2019.
That's right, yeah. We got some nice investment, and whilst I was down there, I set up another company down there. Through that investment, we were buying 2-year-olds and yearlings. We spent a fair few quid, and their sort of main aim was to go into training in Australia with the hopes of them getting to Hong Kong as an export. And so they've gone quite well. I think 2 or 3 of them have made it up to Hong Kong. I think most of them have won races. They've done well. And again, I got the chance to, and I like buying breeze-up horses, because they're a little bit older, but I got the chance to then go and ride them all in Australia and sit on them one after the other. It was a long morning, but it was a really nice opportunity to have a feel of them all.
Can you tell us, for the uninitiated, which is me included, can you just go into a bit of detail about what breeze-up is and how it compares to this leading horse around the, what is the...
Yeah, so if we buy yearlings in October time, they'll all turn 2 in January, and we'll breeze them from April, May, June. And so breezing is riding the horse over 2 furlongs and giving it a nice squeeze. We time the horses and judge them on their movement, judge them on their action, and then, judge them on what we'd usually judge them on as yearlings, so their physical conformation and how they stand up afterwards. There is 3 or 4 breeze-ups in England each year, and you're looking at a horse that's slightly older, and you're watching it breeze. So really you're trying to lessen the risk that you would do when you're trying to buy yearlings.
Okay.
The other thing is you can, in some cases, have a sit on them beforehand whilst they're in training to be a breeze-up horse. So I think it suits my MO, because I'm looking for a racehorse and I can sit on a racehorse, and rather than buying as the major volume of horses as yearlings. It's something that has always stood out to me as a good opportunity.
Okay, now you must have one of those passports that's got about 100 pages in, because it says you go to Ireland, France, America, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa and Hong Kong to auctions.
Yeah.
Is it all done in person? You don't just get the Zoom out and have a look?
No. It's funny, given COVID and whatnot, so much of it is online, and you can get so much information about the horses online, which I think is important and is a good facility to have. However, there's nothing quite like looking at a horse in person, and you can't really do it on a computer, all of it. So the travel, be it a good thing or a bad thing, I really enjoy it, and I think it's a real perk of the job, going around and seeing all these places. Everyone does everything a little bit differently, but it's at the end of the day, you're looking at the same product.
Do you get attached to any of those that you sell, or not attached, but do you sort of think, oh, that so and so's running in Hong Kong, I'll stick a telly on and see how it does, or does it, once the deal's done, you move on?
100%, especially the ones you've sat on and ridden, 100%. You know, and even siblings of them. There's we bought a horse for Nigel in the yearling sales that I rode his brother her brother for Gabe Waterhouse in Australia before he ran in the Melbourne Cup, and so that was just a sort of an added perk to this horse, and that really sort of sprung off the page. So I'll always be looking out for her, and yeah, you put things in the tracker and you always keep an eye on them. It's nice. It's again, I think it's a nice part of the job, just to know what's going on. I mean, Lester had a horse running in Hong Kong that he bred this morning, so we always got to keep an eye out for them.